A name once whispered in the halls of justice now echoed through a courtroom transformed into a stage of controversy. Patel, a figure once tied to national security, was handed a penalty that stunned even the most seasoned legal analyst's civil fine of $500 million. No criminal trial, no full defense. Just a declaration, spoken like thunder, by a judge known more for precision than passion. And yet, as the room gasped, cameras clicked, and verdicts spread like wildfire, Patel remained still eyes forward, jaw tight, hands folded as if in prayer or defiance. The moment was meant to end him, but it didn't. What happened next wasn't defiance, it wasn't outrage, it was something more dangerous proof. While the courtroom settled into disbelief, Patel leaned in and quietly instructed his attorney Langston to reveal what they had, just days earlier, uncovered. Evidence. Real documents. Hidden communications. Material that had never seen light until a whistleblower broke silence inside the very agency that brought the charges. Within minutes, the energy in the courtroom shifted. Langston moved deliberately, placing a worn manila envelope before the judge's bench not with drama, but with a reverence reserved for truth itself. She requested a review, not for appeal, but for correction. Judge Marshall, known for never flinching, flinched. His voice firm but cautious, questioned the timing. But the answer silenced the room more than the gavel ever could. Your Honor, this material was deliberately withheld from our team, Langston said, her words clear. We received it 3 days ago from a whistleblower inside the department. Gasps rippled through the gallery like aftershocks. Prosecutor Stone, the man cast as the courtroom's hero, turned pale. His eyes scanned the crowd as if the walls themselves had betrayed him. Marshall did not react immediately. He opened the envelope with the same care he once gave to classified war crime files. Inside, he found the Mamone internal audit report stating that the financial irregularities linked to Patel were caused by a third-party contractor's software error. Not fraud, not misuse, nothing criminal. Just a reporting failure. The next pages were emails between department staff. One message read, "No clear evidence Patel intended wrongdoing. Pushing this case may create political risks." Another advised delay. Wait to release the autoptics matter. What had been portrayed as deception was unraveling as error, and worse, deliberate omission. The silence in the courtroom turned into something heavier reverence, then shame. Even the stenographer paused, unsure how to type through the weight of the moment. Stone's team froze, the narrative slipping from their fingers like water. Patel, still unmoving, watched as truth returned, not to vindicate, but to expose. Marshall gripped the documents tightly. His face, once carved from composure, now showed strain. He looked up. His voice no longer belonged to the bench. It belonged to a man forced to admit what he never wanted to see. The penalty, he said, was vacated, effective immediately. The courtroom didn't cheer. It didn't move. It listened. This wasn't a victory cry. It was a reckoning. The next day, Patel stood in a press room near Capitol Hill. No podium flourish, no campaign insignia. Just a nameplate, a flag, and the kind of silence that waits for truth. "I'm not here for revenge," he said, voice steady. "I'm here for reform." He outlined 3 changes: mandatory disclosure of all exculpatory evidence, real protections for whistleblowers, and an independent bipartisan review board for prosecutorial conduct. Each point landed not with applause, but with clarity. And then, as if the truth had taken its first breath, the room stood. Reporters, staffers, even political aides in their feet. Patel didn't smile. He nodded. He had survived. But now, he was ready to fight for the system itself. Outside the courthouse, headlines erupted. The reversal became a symbol overnight. But the real tremor came from a leaked clip-in internal video call from the Justice Department where a senior official, unaware the recording was still running, confessed something chilling. "We had to move on him," the voice said plainly. "If we don't frame this right, he'll be too strong by midterms." A silence followed, captured in 5 seconds of dead air before the feed went dark. The video reached over 18 million views in 48 hours, not because it was dramatic, but because it confirmed what people feared justice had become strategy. Within days, oversight hearings were announced, investigations launched, senior officials suspended, and still, Patel didn't bask in the moment. He didn't take a victory tour. He didn't hire a publicist. He went back to work walking into FBI field offices, meeting agents who'd never imagined seeing him again. No press, no cameras, just quiet handshakes, nods, and sometimes tears. In one community center, a mother of a disabled veteran held his hand and whispered, "I gave up believing in the system, but you? I believe in you." That moment weighed more than any courtroom applause ever could. Judge Marshall, a man who rarely spoke outside his rulings, agreed to address a university conference that had been scheduled long before the trial. He stood at the podium without his robe and paused for a long time before speaking. "The law," he said quietly, "is not a shield for the powerful. It's not a sword for the connected. It must be a home for the people, not a weapon against them." Then, for the first time in his public life, his voice broke. He lowered his glasses and added, "This time, I didn't just judge the truth, I stood with it." His words would be printed in law journals and etched into the memory of every student in the room. But Patel wasn't finished. Not by a long shot. With bipartisan support, Congress passed the Executive Transparency Act modeled, almost word for word, from the proposals he laid out in that press room. The bill made it law that all exculpatory evidence must be disclosed, whistleblowers would receive federal protection, and a judicial oversight board would monitor for prosecutorial abuse. It didn't fix everything, but it was a beginning, a page turned with a signature and sealed with national resolve. While the networks debated who won and who lost, Patel returned to the places where trust in government had long dried up: veterans' halls, sheriff stations, rural town meetings. He didn't speak from stages. He sat in folding chairs. He listened. A former agent once pulled him aside and said, "They pushed me out when I refused to bend." Patel didn't offer platitudes, just a quiet promise. "We'll fix it." His story spread not by design, but by necessity. Civics classrooms dissected his trial. University ethics panels held open forums. The phrase, "truth stands tall," began appearing on student signs, coffee mugs, and community murals. He hadn't branded it. It was something he'd scribbled on a note to a school he couldn't visit. But the words outgrew him. When the powerful tremble because the truth stands tall, that's when justice begins. And yet, despite everything, Patel remained himself. Witty, blunt, a little clumsy. One story leaked through a staffer revealed how, just before delivering a crucial reform speech, he tripped over a microphone wire, scattered his papers, and fell flat on stage. The crowd gasped. But he got up, dusted off, smiled, and said, "Sometimes justice looks like this falling flat in front of the world." Then, without missing a beat, he delivered the most viral speech of the year. Not because it was perfect, but because it was real. Weeks later, the hearings ended. The headlines moved on. But in town halls and law classrooms, his journey lingered. This wasn't a story about revenge. It wasn't even a story about a courtroom win. It was about a man who chose not to shout when wronged, but to speak plainly, with proof, and let truth do the heavy lifting. He didn't demand loyalty. He inspired trust. He didn't chase attention. He listened to it. Patel proved something most have forgotten, that in a system built on shadows, a single light can still change everything. And if a man with everything to lose can stand up for the truth, then maybe, just maybe, we all can. Not with noise, not with rage, but with the quiet, persistent courage to say, "Enough." Because justice doesn't begin when the powerful speak. It begins when the rest of us stop staying silent. Thank you for watching. Follow for more true stories of courage, reform, and accountability.